Welcome to MVP Podcast, Season 2, Episode 11. This is our second morning edition. So instead of our drinks, we are all sipping on our coffees or teas. Yes. I actually, if you can tell, I've got a little bit of nasal. It's not COVID. It's like allergies every year when it starts to get cold.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
So I've got my cold tea. It tastes like earth. That's all I can describe. It's just earthy.
Mine is beautiful and black and gingery and delicious.
Yeah, they
went
labeled
the water
this
with the ice.
Oh,
I was
that's
like,
really good too.
But with the ice, if it
Yes.
didn't have the ice, not
has
so
to have the ice. I agree.
Yes.
I'm with you.
Do we do like a virtual cheers?
Yes.
Cheers. Cheers. Good morning.
We have got our closest guest, I'll say.
Yeah.
Jessica's here. She lives in Minnesota, but we found out that we went to the same middle school, and did you go to Catholic Memorial or just your brothers?
I didn't. I went to the all-girls school.
DSHA?
Yep.
All right. So you went to high school with my sister. I went to high school with your brothers. So small world. Had no idea up until 10 minutes ago. So super cool. But she brings the psychology background into, I'm guessing, entrepreneurs and just everyday person.
Yep.
So I'm excited to get into it, obviously, with my psychology background and Natasha's psychology background.
No.
I'm giving you a background, Natasha. I'm giving you a background.
My background in making things look pretty. Let's get that straight.
But yeah, I'm excited to hear about your journey and how you got to where you are and who you're helping. So give us and then the listeners kind of like a brief background of where you came from and what you currently do.
Yeah, so I grew up in New Berlin, Wisconsin, and I'm the youngest of 4. And my upbringing was really wonderful at times, but then we also had some challenges. I grew up with a sister with disabilities, and that was tough. Being the youngest and having my childhood have those challenges, but seeing really great, just different worldviews because of that, but also having a very empathetic personality because of it. I'm someone who loves to listen to people, and I really, really believe in people's gifts and people's abilities, and I love to bring that out of people. So I went to school for social work and then got a master's in clinical social work, and now I'm practicing as a counselor. And my heart and passion is really just equipping people with tools so they feel empowered and feel in control, because we don't often feel that, and we don't often feel calm. And so I love teaching people very simple tools that can leave them feeling like, yeah, I can handle what's coming about today. And they can be the version of themselves that they want to be. They can be that professional. They can be that mom. They can be that partner. They can just be that individual too, that they want to be. And I just love equipping people with those tools that they just feel confident in who they are. They feel comfortable in their own skin, and they don't have to pretend to be someone that they're not. But when difficult things come up, like they all do for us, they go, okay, like this is happening. I don't have to brush it aside. I don't have to freak out, really. There's things that I can do, and they know exactly what to do with that.
Yeah. And that the ability, I'm not going to call it a skill, because I don't know, skill to me means, well, I guess it could be a skill because you have it, you just need to grow it a little bit. So the skill of being able to like level yourself or monitor yourself is something that's learned. I think everybody has the ability, but like when I started, and we've got deliveries going on, we've got demo going on, we've got builds going on, I've got 3 kids at home, and like my world is just, it feels like it's in chaos.
Totally.
To be able to just like, when I leave work, just take a deep breath, be like, okay, I'm going home. Whatever happened at work, leave it at work. Whatever's at home, deal with it at home, and try to like remove some of the stress that's lingering.
Yeah.
So that I can actually
present, how to be present at work, how to be present even in the car home, because you have to be present as you're driving home.
Yeah.
And then when you get home, how to be present there. Like it can be very tough. Very tough. And so, and I love how you said it, it's learned skills. I think that's what I want people to know, is that if you weren't taught this growing up, if you weren't modeled this, not like, oh, sucks for you, you're going to be like that forever. I mean, that's not like, I wouldn't be doing the work that I'm doing if I didn't,
Right.
like, if I believed that. I'm doing the work that I'm doing because you can learn this at any point in your life. I've worked with 18-year-olds, I've worked with 30-year-olds, I've worked with 50-year-olds. I recently just finished with a lady who's 72. Wow. Like, this stuff is really fun, and it can happen at any part of your, or any point in your life.
Yeah, that's cool. So with you working for a counselor, you do general public, right? You're not affiliated with like a school or university or program.
No, I'm not.
So you do some coaching with entrepreneurs or people working just a standard W-2 kind of thing, correct?
Nope, not a standard. So it's my own private practice. So I went off on my own and work with people statewide, nationwide, and worldwide. So just therapy for people in Minnesota, but coaching for people out of the state as well as national or globally too. So
and this is just a personal question, I'm curious. Do you call it coaching because of licensing? You're not licensed outside of Minnesota to practice?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
But I've honestly even considered taking away my license because my approach for therapy or coaching is actually very, very similar. And I don't really like diagnoses, to be honest. That's what therapy is. And you really only need, here, this is going to be a spoiler for people and a shock probably, is the only reason you need a diagnosis is for insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's it.
My son went to a therapist because his grandpa died recently. And she's like, yeah, nothing's really wrong with him. He's coping fine. But I'm going to put this on because I have to. Otherwise, you'll get billed for the full visit. Otherwise, because we can't run it through insurance. And I was like, really? Okay. Like, that's fine. She's like,
okay,
really?
Okay. So let me tell you the diagnosis they likely gave is probably adjustment disorder.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And for you guys with the work that you're doing, moving into a house or an apartment or whatever, moving is one of the biggest adjustments of our life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So anyone really can go to therapy, counseling, whatever, and get that diagnosis, because what that diagnosis says, and I love it, and it's my go-to one, because I want to say, yeah, for 6 months, you are welcome to have an emotional experience that comes up because of this adjustment. Like we say clinically, it's actually expected to have some emotional differences that are coming up. You're not going to be fully yourself for those 6 months. So give yourself time to adjust. And then if it continues past 6 months, we have to give a different diagnosis. But for 6 months, absolutely, you could have that one. Like you're adjusting. That's literally what it's saying, is you are adjusting to this big event in your life, a death of a family member. Oh, come on. That's a huge adjustment. Moving to some place, buying a place, that's a big adjustment.
That's why I'm never moving again.
Right? But it's like a huge, huge adjustment. So knowing that there's going to be an emotional upheaval I just would say, expect it and don't judge yourself until that 6-month mark.
Interesting.
Yeah. I had no idea about the whole insurance background to that, but I mean, I guess X's and O's, it makes sense.
Yeah.
You got to put something down for the insurance to take a look at it.
Yeah, but if you go private pay with people, they don't have to do a diagnosis.
Okay. And that's what you were implying you might do, is get rid of the...
Yeah, and then when I do private pay with people, I don't even have to do a diagnosis anyways, but my focus and my work is very solution focused. It's very quick. For coaching and a lot of my therapy clients, I actually only work with people for 6 weeks. It's insane. It's very quick. I take them from feeling really overwhelmed, stressed out, feeling like they can't handle anything, to literally transforming by week 6, but very much early on, to get to the point where they're like, I got this. I don't need you. I can do this. And not in like, you didn't work for me. It's that I feel empowered. I feel confident enough to handle whatever comes up in my life.
Yeah. Is it an intense 6-week
Not
regimen?
not entirely, because it's really just giving people the tools I think that people have been searching for so long. And I break it down into just very easy to understand terms. But also I don't go into heavy trauma. Because if we do that, that's going to be a lot more drawn out. That's going to be a
Yeah.
lot more just like emotionally taxing. But I just really go, okay, great. This is happening. Use this. And then people go, okay, great. And then they have their blueprint, they have their framework. So when they have things in their life happen, they go, yep, I'm there and I'm using this skill right now.
Yeah.
So it's just
So you
very,
teach them the learn part of it. And I
yeah.
can't remember who told it or who said it, but I was listening to somebody and the way that they phrased it, it stuck out in my mind because he said, well, how was it? It was people don't know, people go to school thinking that they're learning, but they never got taught how to learn. So like we missed that basic step. And I kind of equated that into like the emotional regulation. Like we never had a course in school, in middle school at Holy Apostles. We never had a thing of how to regulate your emotions or how to help out of a stress relief. And I feel like there's some negative connotation to it in our society about like those type of educational things. But I mean, if you don't know how to learn and regulate your body and your emotions, I mean, it makes sense growing up.
My big piece of that is if we can't learn how to regulate our emotions, that's the emotional part of the brain. And if we can't do that, what happens is we drop to that survival because we're saying, I can't handle this situation. We drop. And then we're living our lives in survival mode, which means we're overwhelmed, we're stuck, we're yelling things that we don't want to, we're literally frozen, not able to talk to people, or we're leaving conversations, we're not having conversations that we need to be having. We're not living in the life that we want to. But if we can learn how to handle those emotions and recognize the fears, the insecurities, and not run away from those either, but learn to deal with them and to learn that those insecurities don't have to be us. We don't have to take on that identity, but we can overcome that. We're able to. This is like my absolute favorite part. And when my clients get there, they know I'm so excited and they're so excited because it's huge breakthrough. Is we go from that emotional part to the top part of our brain, which is our executive part. And that's where we're that best self. That's where we're confident. That's where we're setting goals for ourselves and achieving those goals. That's where we're having conversations with people that are so intelligent and they're creative and there's breakthrough and there's just a lot of optimism and a lot of innovation and creativity and fun, just fun that happens there. I mean, we have to have that emotional intelligence in order to get to that point. Because if we don't, we will drop to that survival.
Yeah. And is there something you're talking about like, are you talking about like Maslow's bottom level, like
survival? Yeah, that time, I mean, our basic needs have to be met. So what I'm talking about when I say the survival, the emotional, the executive, that's really looking at brain-based research. So Dan Siegel is a really big founding researcher of that right now. And it's looking at the neurodevelopmental research, right? So that's that nerdy kind of talk. That's the very counseling stuff.
The fun talk.
Yeah.
I know when I was studying through psychology, when we got to that portion of like fight or flight, and you say freeze as well. So fight, flight, or freeze. And then we talk about those basic needs. I always felt like there was a portion of that where I'm trying to put myself in their shoes. They feel like everything's out of control. They feel like they can't bring everything in and say like, this is my stuff. I know it's not going anywhere. Like,
you were just
I
saying
know I have my
safe
food.
place. That's it. I started to hear you say it. It's not my safe place.
Yeah. Like
Safety
this is my food. I know I have food. I know I have water. I know I have shelter. Like that's locked in. I have it. For people that don't have that, it's hard to think like, okay, you don't need to focus on this stuff as much. There's other things that we can focus on that's going to kind of not rewire your brain, but make you think a little bit differently or see the world differently. But they can't get off that first level because they're like, but I need these things to feel comfortable before I even go up.
Yeah.
Like
so why, I'll give you the explanation of that, of why is the survival part of the brain. Each part of the brain is actually asking a question, and the survival is asking the question, am I safe? So when you said safe place, their world, their environment isn't safe. So they need to be in that part of their brain to keep themselves safe. The function there, all of the parts of the brain, the brainstem, all of that stuff is literally designed to keep you safe. So that fight is for you to be able to, if there was a bear in front of you, grab a big old branch and hit it. Or if you needed to run, that's the flight. Run as fast as you can. Or if it's freeze, like crawling into a ball and telling that bear, like, I'm not a threat, and then it leaves. Those things are literally designed to keep us safe. And so if people are feeling not safe, their environment is telling them that. That's why they're there. So like when it comes to working with your clients in the real estate and all of that, if they're having that, people's home needs to be their safe place. And if they're picking up on something, that's an indicator that likely that place is not for them.
Yeah.
The mind cannot know. That's the hard part. They won't be able to articulate it. They'll just be like, something's not right. You have to.
And everybody has that feeling.
Yes.
Everybody has that feeling.
Yes. And the biggest thing I would encourage you, and this is so insane, is like tap into that and say, you know what? I hear you. We're going to trust that right now. Because what happens, and this is so much of the work I do, is teaching people to trust their body, trust their instincts that's happening, because their body knows something, because the body is in control of the survival, but the mind is completely shut off at that point. So we have to trust that body. We have to trust what's going on, because the body's picking up on things. And sometimes we find out a week later, a day later, but sometimes we never find out. But there was something about it that was just a no-go. And if they would perhaps move forward and stay there, they wouldn't feel safe. There's something there that they don't feel safe with. So respect that, honor that, and say, I trust you. I trust your instinct. I trust what's going on right now. And we're not gonna be here. That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I mean, to get comfortable with that is a very, very hard concept for someone who doesn't have a lot of positive experiences with it. So if I'm looking at it from the investor side, I can run the numbers on a property and it'll work out numbers wise and I'll cash flow on it. But there's something about it that just tells me like, this is a bad idea. Like I don't know much about this issue that we're gonna have to fix. So because of that, it just doesn't feel right. Even though I could fix it and the numbers would still work, it just doesn't, it's not for me.
Yes, there's something wrong with it. Or there's not always something wrong with it. But what I would encourage people is, okay, great. Know yourself. Know how long does that feeling typically even last for you? Because sometimes people go, I'm someone where I need 2 days. I need 2 days to not make any decision about it. And I go, great, wait 2 days. If that feeling, like rate the intensity, let's say it's at a 8. Okay, if it becomes a 9, that's a clear indicator of no. But if it becomes like a 4 and then a 3, okay, can you handle 3? Okay, like that's more of something that you can go with and you can make that decision of, okay, I can move forward with it.
Right. Yeah, and for me, it usually lasts like a day or two. And if by a day or two, I'm still feeling uneasy, I'm like, it's not for me. And then
that sucks the business sense, right? When it's like, come on, the finances, like all this is like.
Yeah. But in the beginning, I did feel like that. Like, here's an opportunity, I have to take it. But I don't have to take every opportunity. There's so many opportunities out there. And that was the big change where I was like, okay, here's my opportunity to like make a lot of money. Like this could be it.
Yep.
But like from the start, if I went, and I've done that, I mean, we're currently in a project that has just gone completely sideways. And at this point, like we don't even have the roof on and I'm done with it.
Yes.
Like,
you're totally survival flight.
Yeah. And we're going to keep going on it. It's going to be a beautiful home. I'm not trying to down talk it, but in terms of where we started to where we are and all the issues in between, some out of our hands, some that we caused.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm like, I'm ready for this to be done. We're just going to get out as best we can. But again, tomorrow, I'm not going to get any more worried about it. It is like the situation, or it is the snapshot in time that we're at. It's not going to be more or less stressful tomorrow. It just is. So I'm trying
really curious at the beginning, if you can remember, did you have any of those inclinations? Something like,
Yes.
something doesn't feel right.
Yes.
And
The reason being is I purchased it on a different way than I normally do. And that was due to, usually I buy my properties either mail, like off market deals, or foreclosures
okay.
at auctions. So this one was the standard MLS listing because there were no foreclosures when COVID started. I bought it in April. So like everything, or May, sorry, everything got shut down. So there was no houses out there for me that I normally purchase. So I had to go a different route. And from the start, it just was it was different and it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like it was in that flow state. So going into it, and I know a part of that is sitting in the back of my mind and it's attaching itself to every decision I make from there forward. So I'm like, okay, I got to start out good because it doesn't get better. That's my baseline.
Yes. And I think like for whoever's listening, listen to that, right? Like if you could go back, what would you have done differently?
I always like, I'm a big believer in like following your gut. And like it's helped me make so many like big decisions in my life. Like, so Marcus is talking about his investment that he made. Well, my husband and I just made our own investment, like way out of state. And it's starting to pan out. It's starting to like find its legs and like be an okay investment. But like, I was so nervous, but I just kept telling myself, and I had the good feelings that like, this is going to be the right thing for us.
Yeah. And that's so good. And then, because then in the process, it kind of can grow and can actually nurture and like, but really it's like looking at a soiled ground. Like, do you have the rockiness? That thing's not going to grow too well.
Right.
But if it's like, no, it's good. It feels good. Like I feel it. My body feels it. Like, yeah, everything just feels in tune. Like it feels good. Then move forward. But it's so hard. And I think it's like, and I think what I want people to know is give yourself grace, because we all have these moments in our life. We all have times where we didn't really listen to that gut or to the intuition or that feeling. But a lot of times it's really because we haven't been taught to do that.
Yeah.
And that's not praised in our society. And if you're making a business deal and you're like, something just doesn't feel right and you can't pinpoint it, people are like, well, that's not a good enough justification.
It is.
Yeah. In my head now, it is a good enough justification.
Yes.
Because, and I explained to him, like, it's nothing about you. It's nothing about your house or your property or your asset. Just something about this doesn't feel right. Again, it's nothing personal. It's just my decision to do this.
Yeah.
But it gets really tricky. And I'm trying to sympathize with the people that, I mean, everybody has different roles. So like where I have to make a decision and I have to wait maybe 6, 8, 10 months to find out if it pans out or not. There are some people that wake up in the morning, they're like, all right, here's a decision for today. And I can't even wait 5 hours because my anxiety is just so high waiting for it. And those are the people that I'm like, man, if there was like some secret way to get them to like just calm down, or if we could teach them to take a breath, which seems so hard in the moment.
Okay, so let me teach you, because this is my specialty. This is if there is a secret way. There are so many amazing, wonderful ways to do it. What I tell people is what we need to know is we need to use the calming strategies that work for us. People have always told me journal. You know what happens when I'm journaling? I literally, it's insane. I literally grab the pen and I just go, like I don't enjoy it. Okay, like it's a no-go for me. But I'd
be the same way. Writing, not for me.
Yeah,
not me either.
Nope. But there's people out there that go, oh my God, that's like the most therapeutic, calming thing for me. And I go, great, you use it.
Yeah.
Because what happens is the purpose to answer, am I safe? Because that's the question of the survival to get out. We have to answer yes to get out. If I'm journaling and going, oh, come on, that's a fight reaction. That's telling me I'm staying in my survival and I'm probably going to go a little bit deeper. Actually, I'm not actually going to get out. So the purpose is to get out. So use a calming strategy that's going to work for you. So I'm going to ask both of you guys, like, what are things that you enjoy? What are things that you kind of go, really like, that was nice. Like, I enjoyed that. What are those things for you guys?
For me, it's like working out. Like that's where I get my like calming. So
Yes,
or like
absolutely.
or petting my puppies.
Yeah. Mine are walks with the dogs.
Yeah.
Those are my, like, as much as it stinks sometimes because it's either like it might be like 6 a.m. or like right when I get home from work after I'm like tired.
Yeah.
So getting to doing it, frustrating. But when I'm actually on the walk and I'm listening to either like I'll listen to classical music or like a podcast, and I can just decompress for 25-30 minutes and have no kids screaming at me, no like no job site noise.
Yeah.
It's just like walking the dogs. That's like my calm.
Yes, yes, yes. So here's the fun part is I look at hormonally too at times. Men need testosterone to experience calm, and you can achieve that by either having time alone or by fixing something. So you said when you're able to just be completely alone, time, space away. Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
That made total sense for me. And for Natasha, you said like one part that really stuck out was petting your dog. Women can receive calm by getting estrogen, but the estrogen piece can be by nurturing or by being nurtured. But often what happens as women is we're nurturing too much and we're being nurtured way low. So what we have to do is we have to kind of equalize it out. And a dog is just one of those absolutely wonderful little creatures that can nurture us so beautifully well.
Here we are.
Right?
Natasha, I am calling Jason, and he's gonna have to up his nurturing game.
Oh, for sure.
So that
I
you're not
know,
stressed.
right?
I mean, a massage is great. So like a foot massage, a back
Oh my God,
massage.
I know. He's so sweet though. He's like, we need to schedule you in for a massage. He tries so hard, but I'm like, that's not good enough, babe. You need to really get in there.
Okay. So here's one of the really fun parts. Men get testosterone by either having time alone or by fixing something, right?
He's a fixer.
Okay, so let's utilize this. This is where I love doing this. It's like, ooh, you teach this. You could say to your husband, hey, I'm feeling really stressed and overwhelmed right now. You know what helped fix it? If you could massage my feet for like 5-10 minutes. That would really help me.
Love it.
I hope
Get
Ari
them
does not watch this show.
practicing. Well, you can just utilize that and tell him that for whoever's listening. I mean, it's like I love doing that because the man gets to fix something, produce testosterone, super good for them. And the woman gets to receive nurturing, which gives them estrogen and helps them, like total win-win for everyone to experience calm.
Yeah.
Love it.
And obviously there's a lot of stress that comes from work. I think a lot of it comes from people not doing what truly like satisfies them in work.
Yeah.
Like they're going to a work and they're clocking in, they're doing their job, they're clocking out. And some people, it doesn't matter what they do, they just love that role. And that's something that I learned super early. Like one of my first or second jobs, there was a guy that I kind of bonded with. He was a few like cubes over.
Yeah.
And I was talking about like, I want to start my own company. I want to do all the stuff that I'm doing right now is what I envisioned 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, that like good for you. Like I ran I think he ran his own parish, something within a church.
Yeah.
So he ran that, and he was like, I'm done with it. I wasn't there for my family. I wasn't there for my friends. I didn't get to do my extra things. So like, I'm happy with where I'm at. Like it may not be the fulfilling thing, but I get my fulfillment at home. And that was like my first thing. I was like, dang, so people aren't as driven to like start their own business as I am. I have to take that in consideration because like what I want for my staff is, have you heard of like entrepreneur?
No. Interesting.
So it's a concept that like a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs, but like that's the totality of it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people like I think want to be entrepreneurs. They want to be in a role in a company where they can create what they want to create, but not have the overwhelming like it's all me. It's make or break on me. So I try to do like the entrepreneur thing where you're in this role. I'm going to try to help you, but like Natasha, like I don't know marketing. So a lot of the things, Natasha, I have to like lean on her to do.
Yeah.
And she's yelled at me and she's like, you need to give us more direction because like you leave it so open-ended. And those are things that I need to learn as the manager, like the balance to it. because I was swinging so far on one side and I didn't notice it until Natasha brought it up, where she's like, we need at least some, like a little bit more guidance.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even something with her. It was something I was talking to her about the guys at work. But during work, I want them to feel fulfilled, and they have like their avenues to explore and express, like a custom wall or something they want to do with the vanity. That all sounds great to me. But there are some situations in the building process where things don't work out and measurements are wrong and pieces don't fit. And it is so frustrating because it should on paper be super easy.
Yeah.
So to get the guys like, hey, it's not working, go sit in the garage for 5-10 minutes and just come back. Because otherwise you're going to sit there for 5 or 10 minutes and beat it with a hammer and try to kick it in place. And you're going to be 10 minutes later, but you're just as stressed.
Yeah.
So like, go walk to the gas station and get a drink, or go sit in the garage and just decompress and then come and try it again. Like, you're not off the job. You still have to fix it, but like, go relax and then come back. I'd rather that than you just be upset the whole rest of your day and everything's ruined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, or it's like, or you create incentives of, here's $10 each week, go, it's your free spending to just go get whatever snack or treat or whatever you need.
Yeah.
Because we need that, because we need those resets. And our productivity in the survival part of our brain sucks, super slow. We're very unproductive. When we even get to our emotional, somewhat, but our emotional is very much dictated on our feelings. And so it's like, I'm just feeling angry. So we're like hitting things harder than it needs to, or we're like still kind of breaking things. And it's because we're just letting whatever feeling of ours control the behavior. It very much controls it. But if we can manage those, then we're in this executive. When we're here, we all know when we're here because projects, assignments, tasks get done like that. It's so fast. But if we're recognizing that we're not there, then yeah, we need to take some time. Does it need to be 20 minutes? No, it doesn't at all. Like for you, it could be a quick walk, like, or just go in your car, listen to classical music or something, but it gives you that reset. 5-10 minutes, 20 minutes at times, really 20 minutes in the large scheme of the whole day. You come back, you're energized, you're ready to go. Like productivity way up. It's very worth it.
How do you distinguish between I'm trying to think of like the Enneagram. So like for people listening, like I think I'm a 4. I don't know, but I think I'm a 4, but very logical thinking, trying to be a problem solver. And then you have wings, but then there are other people on that same spectrum that are more like the emotional feelers. So their baseline is more emotional. So how do you delineate between your emotional behaviors, like you said, hitting things harder than it needs to be and getting frustrated, and then your executive? Like, do people baseline in their emotional, but they need to have the ability to get to executive? Or how does that play in with personality?
Is, I guess I don't know like the full extent, or haven't like, I've just started to explore the Enneagram for myself. And it was interesting. I first scored as a 2, but I'm actually not a 2.
Okay.
I'm actually a 7. So I love fun. I like creativity. But my upbringing, I became a 2 as a caregiver, right? And then, but I love playing the 2. So I'm a counselor, coach. Like I very much am a caregiver, but my way of doing it is very creative. And very out there. Like it's a very different approach. So that's the 7 for me. But the stuff with the emotional, I think everyone has the ability to be in their executive, and everyone's executive looks very different. But are some people maybe more prone to be in their emotional at times? Perhaps. But I think for those people, it's probably that their emotions really influence their decision-making a lot more. And they go more based on feelings. Does that mean that they're in their emotional? No, they actually might be able to rely on some feelings and go, I think I'm feeling this. Great. I'm aware of it. I'm recognizing it. Okay. And I'm checking some of these things off. Yep. Okay. Like they're not avoiding those feelings. They're actually recognizing them. And so they're able to get into their executive. But if they,
so it's more of like a symbiotic communication between the levels.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. And And really, how do you know the distinction between the two? The emotional is, let's say I'm feeling hungry and I'm in my executive. I'd say, oh, I'm feeling hungry. I went and got a snack. I ate it, right?
Yeah.
That's executive thinking. Emotional thinking, opening, closing the doors, then out of my mouth, there's no food in here. Like, I'm going to start to starve. I'm starting to go into my survival if I'm saying that. Like,
Yeah.
that's really what the difference is it's having what your feelings are in that executive, recognizing them and going, great, I can do something about it. And then doing it.
Yeah.
But if we're like, I don't know if I can really do anything about it, we're in our emotional. Or if it's like, there's never anything I can do, now we're in our survival.
Yeah. And I mean, they do have like positive emotional responses where you're like, I don't know, not manic, but like up there and everything is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
And you're like, I feel like that's a little bit emotionally charged, but I'm happy you're happy,
Yeah.
obviously. But I think it goes both ways.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you brought up when you were talking too, and I do this work with people, is we talk about what are their number or their top 3 values in their life.
Yeah.
I think we all have very different values. And our fear is that if we have a difference, it then means disconnection or it means a lack of a relationship. It doesn't mean that at all. And it doesn't have to mean that. It just means that there's a difference. And we can actually respect and encourage people by helping them live in line with their values, just as much as us living in line with ours. Because when we're in alignment of that, we're very in tune with ourselves. We're very like, something feels off and I'm going to trust that right now. And I'm going to go with that. Like, that's living in line with our values, which is, that's the alignment that I hope for myself. I hope for my family, I hope for my clients, but I hope to like pass on to my kids that they can do that.
Yeah.
Live it.
Yeah. And I think more and more as this comes out, because it's still a relatively new field.
Oh yeah.
Like a decade ago, it wasn't commonplace to go see a psychologist or a therapist or a counselor. It was, I know when I was at Holy Apostles going to see the school counselor, you're like, what did I do? Like you always felt like you were in trouble.
Yeah. And so you didn't feel safe. Because
it was
like you had to be on edge. So if they're like, what did you do?
And I'm not blaming Holy Apostles because in their defense, I probably did something wrong. So like, I give them the okay to do that on that. But like, for me, it was like, again, like, what are we doing? We're going over my classes for the next year. We're going to go over what grades I'm not doing well. We're going to go over the incident I had with a kid in some class. Like, I know the things we're going to go over, but I don't feel like anything's happening. They're just going to like reprimand me. Mm-hmm. And I mean, at that point, I don't think it was as advanced as it is now. And I think there's a long road to go too, which excites me. But now that I feel like there's more and more resources within school, and I think it's more commonplace for if my son tells me he's struggling or having some emotional thing, like, go talk to a therapist. They're going to be a great resource for you. And it's not a punishment. Just go talk to somebody. Because if you want to get good at basketball, I would have you go to a coach who has the skills of basketball.
Yeah.
But you want to get better with your mind, I'm going to send you to a coach that is good with their mind.
And for me,
that just makes sense. I don't know.
And my biggest, deepest passion is, I would say, Marcus, come work with me. Because you know what I would do is I would teach you and equip you how to do it for yourself. And then once you learn how to do it for yourself, you can then teach your son how to do it.
Yeah.
Because his safe person, I don't want that to be me. No. I want that to be you. Mm-hmm. I want you to be his safe person. I want you to talk to him when things come up, because there's a time right now he's going to need to talk to you. There's going to be a time when he's older. There's going to be times where he's going to need that safe person. And I hope to God he can go, my dad is that person, because you've shown him and you've supported him and you've taught him how to do that. That's
that idea.
The biggest passion is, how do we equip parents to then teach their children, because then their children are going to go on to their next generation and teach their children. And it's just going to be this beautiful cycle. But
I think we need to have more of the general public not be scared of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like they don't want to talk about it because it's weakness. If your mind's not tough and steel, you're weak. And if you're weak, you're not going to make it.
You know, it was interesting. I was reading a book years ago, but it was about the whole like mind over matter aspect. And I just thought it was the coolest thing I have ever read. I didn't get a chance to finish the book, but I want to find it again and start reading it one more time because it was so cool. Like your mind is so much more powerful than you give it credit for.
Yeah. And how I see it is, okay, I grew up hearing, Lindsey, you have a brain, you need to use it. Stop relying on those emotions. You're just being too emotional. Okay.
Yeah.
I was of course taught, a lot of my clients have been taught, you're too emotional, you're too sensitive, you're too dramatic. I mean, those are words that they've always heard. And I go, ooh, you want to hear my like backstory on that? I was like, you know what I found out is this emotions are actually the ticket to get to that part of the brain where that mind is powerful. Like I said, if we avoid those feelings, we drop to our survival. Are we powerful in our survival? No, we're victims. We're not. We're super weak. We're not strong. But if we actually allow those feelings to come up and sit with them and know there's things you can do with them, we get to this part of our brain where we are powerful, where we can use the brain that God gave us, right? I mean, that was what I was always taught, is like, use the brain that God gave you. And I was like, I can't access that. And I couldn't pinpoint it. I couldn't figure out like why until I studied this. And then I was like, that makes complete sense. My feelings are actually the gateway to get there. So I have to actually learn how to handle them.
Yeah. And I'll admit I was in the same boat growing up through athletics. Like you were supposed to be the macho man and like battle through any injury and like that whole like masculine energy thing.
Yeah.
And as I grew up, and I mean, getting into psychology was kind of like my blessing because it kind of tipped the scale of like, I thought world was like baseball. That's when I started college was baseball. That was it.
Yeah.
And then I got into that and I was like, sports are like a very, very small part of the world. And there's so much more. And then I started reading and talking to people. And I felt like the most like enlightening people and the most fun people to listen to and who brought the most value were the people that could align their emotionals with their logics. So they've got their logical argument, they've got their emotions into it, and they can deliver it. And it's kind of like this dual, dual behavior coming for one theme.
Totally.
So it wasn't the overly emotional, it wasn't the overly logical. It was like that sweet middle where you can get both to work together.
And you don't
Those
have
are the happiest people.
One or the other. Yeah. And it's literally when I coach my clients, you know what we do? We set a timer for 1 to 3 minutes. They get to choose. Sometimes they say 30 seconds. I go, great. Just sit with that feeling for that amount of time. And it's really hard for them at times because they're like, and then they start trying to talk and I go, I'm going to have to set the timer again. Or I'm like, you know what, right now you're telling me that you don't want to sit with this. So let's not. Yeah. But like, we know that timers will go off, right?
Yep.
So what I use that for is I teach people that, hey, your feeling is not going to destroy you and it's not going to be here forever. That's the misbelief that's in your head. And we're going to set it for a minute and I'm going to be here with you in this moment because it's difficult and you need someone in your corner right now because I'm asking you to do something that is very difficult for you because you likely were probably not modeled how to do this, or you didn't have people in your life that were there to support you, that you felt really understood by. When you had a feeling that came up, you probably weren't supported in the way that you needed it. Is that bad? Are we going to bash those people? No, it's that they themselves didn't know how to do those skills either. So how on earth were they supposed to teach you? That goes back to the parenting piece. Like, if you want to really help your kid, I'd say, come do this work. Like, because it's not intense. Like I've said, it's 6 weeks and it's not like grueling. People literally go, holy crap, this was it. Like, this is literally what I needed to learn. And I'm like, yes, simple. Like, we overcomplicate things way too much. And it's just like, oh, wow, I can do that. Like, that's what I often hear people say. Oh, I can do that. Yeah. You can set a timer for a minute and sit with that feeling. Yeah. And it's not going to destroy you. And you're actually going to have incredible insight when you do, into what's going on.
Yeah. And do you do that when they're like in their emotional, like, let's say they get super frustrated at a project. Are you saying, okay, we're going to sit with this emotion for a minute? Like in that part, or do you try to?
Yeah,
What
so
is
it'd be hard. Like if you're working with your team, you can be like, no, let's all sit with our feelings. It'd be like,
that?
what are you doing?
I
Because
could.
you could be like, and what you could say is, you know what? We're just going to literally take 5 minutes. I'm going to just turn on, maybe it's for you, that classical music. We're just going to turn it on and we're just going to just be. We're not going to be focusing. We're not going to be doing anything. You guys are welcome to do whatever the heck you want. But for these 5 minutes, we're not going to be focusing on this task right now.
Yeah.
What I encourage people is if feelings are really difficult, we start with that calming strategy. So that go-to thing that you guys talked about. And it might be literally like Natasha, it might be literally having your dog on your lap and you're literally petting your dog.
Oh, that's how they are all day.
Yeah, I was gonna say that already is a thing.
Yeah.
They are.
But it might be like, we're going to start there.
Yeah.
And you're going to feel that nurture and you're going to feel that calm. And then you're going to be ready for it. Because it can, like I've said, for some people, it's like the hardest thing that they've ever done. But like that type of work, when I help people guide them through that, it's not intense actually. And it's actually so freeing. Literally what happens is people go, and their whole body just relaxes. And it's amazing. It's just so fun to watch.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's cool to see like them get that feeling, because you can feel their, like, I don't know, their shoulders like relax when they finally can get into that, I call it a flow state, but when they get into that like calming state.
Yeah. So here's the really fun part. I did this with a client this week and I love this story. And I just love these kind of stories because people will go, oh yeah, this totally happens. Is I go, okay, what are you feeling right now? She's like, I'm feeling angry. And I go, heck yeah, you're feeling angry. Okay. Where do you feel that in your body? She goes, it's in my heart right now. It's like, okay. I said, so what I want you to do is I want you to just sit with it for a minute and just notice what's going on in your heart right now. And notice, she said, it feels warm right now. I was like, okay, great. See if the warmth gets warmer or see if anything starts to move. And she's like, okay. So she did it. And then after the minute, I said, okay, what happened? And she said, Lindsey, it literally it kind of like kept coming up my chest into my throat, but then it kind of got stuck and then it went back down. And I said, okay, so is it still in your chest? And she's like, yeah, it's still in my chest. And I go, that's telling me that it wants to get out. It wants to get out of your mouth, but you don't want to let it out. And she's like, well, I've been like, honestly, screaming kind of all day. I don't want to like scream anymore. I was like, okay, then let's not scream. And I go, I literally was like, can you put your hands up and then just go, and she's like, I could do that, but I don't really want to. I was like, do you want me to do it with you? So literally for 5 minutes, we just did that. Like ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
But I asked her, I said, okay, from when we started, what was your intensity? She said, my intensity of the anger was an 8. And I said, that anger was so big for you. Like that was really big. Now, where is it at? She's like, it's a 4. I said, so you took that little bit of time to just go, and I go, it's now a 4. And I said, is it in your chest anymore? She goes, no, it's not in my chest. She's like, honestly, I don't even know where it is. I said, it got out of your body. Like you needed to let it out. And it's that simple. And so that's how I walk it through with people as we say, okay, great. What are you feeling? Where is it in your body? Now let's figure out how to release it.
Yeah. I think that's huge. And it's super cool that you're able to do that for people to get the feeling of happy and healthy. Because I feel like with all the stimulation going around the world, I feel like some people have lost like what their body feels like when it's healthy. Whether that be like stress in their life or substance, like I feel like alcohol is like everywhere. And I feel like we lose track of what our body feels like when it's healthy, or our mind feels like when it's healthy.
And alcohol and all of those things, here's my perspective on it. This is different.
I didn't mean to bring in drugs because that's a whole different...
I think it's great. I think it's super great because you know what it is it produces calm for us. That's why we do those things. I think if we could see it that way, it
just as a true suppressant.
Yes, it literally is producing calm. Like that's why we do it, because our body knows to get out of survival, we need calm. So that's why we're doing those things. Like just matter of fact, that's why we're doing it. I think if we could look at things that way, or it's, I want to avoid something.
Yeah.
Like that's, you're in your survival, those fight, flight, or freeze, choose what you're going to do.
Yep.
But what it does, and this is what I encourage people, is I say, okay, in the long term, is it really truly helping you? Is it really helping you get to this part of your brain? And what I
Yeah.
hear people say is, no, it kind of does.
Kind of hard to get to your executive part of your brain when you're on alcohol.
Yeah. Or on
Like the
pot.
last thing that's probably
Like,
gonna pop up.
yeah, I mean, there's lots of things that people do, and here's the deal, we've all done certain things too. It's like, I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, you've done that. It's like, yeah, we've all used coping strategies that have been like healthy, and then we've also used things that haven't been healthy.
Right.
Whatever they are to us, it's not a judgment. For me, it's just like, yeah, you were in that part of your brain and you were trying to use a calming strategy, like point blank. And people go, really? Wow. Yeah. It's like, yep. So is that really serving you? Not so much. Do you want to learn something different? Yeah, I want to learn something different. Okay, great. Let's figure out something different. But there are going to be times where you're still going to use that because you know how powerful that is for you to experience calm. We have to get to a level where these other ones are just as effective. And then once they are, then we start to eliminate using those other ones.
Yeah. And it's almost like we're learning over. Like we learned that at some point in our life, we learned that alcohol or this or that would take our stress out. That was a learned behavior. So we keep doing it. And now we're like, hey, that learned behavior, it's gotten me to a little bit better. But like, I still, as a person, I'm not feeling completely like happy, or I'm not feeling completely to my potential. So alcohol can, or whatever it is, can take you that far. And then it's like, okay, let's take a step back and let's learn a different process and see if that gets us there.
Absolutely.
And the stopping.
I love our tangents that we are getting on. However, we are going over our time limit for the day. So
we are an hour.
We're just going to have Lindsey to come back on our show for another session, because this is
now we've got
super informative.
We have got the background on Lindsey, and now I think next episode we talk about how you implement it with some people, either with agents or in the workforce.
Yeah.
Some of the tactics you use and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know if you guys would feel comfortable, but I think this part, I think a lot of your listeners would probably really love to hear this, because mental health, this kind of conversation people don't hear, right? Like we don't talk about this. We were able to just talk. It was like normal conversation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This can be normal conversation.
As it should be,
right? And it's like alcohol, things like that. Oh, come on. Who doesn't use sex? Who doesn't use pot? Who doesn't use work? List everything that we have all done. There's no judgment. We use it. It's worked, but it's gotten us to a certain level. So there's no judgment with that at all.
Right. No, that's super cool. Well, you're going to connect with Natasha offline to try and get another show, because I want to get more in depth with it, kind of open up the conversation a little bit.
Well, thank you. It was super fun. I enjoyed it. And it's fun for me because I was like, ooh, I'm going to try a different angle. Instead of just talking to therapists or things, I'm like, why don't I just talk to just a whole different field, which is a lot better anyway.
And let me tell you, agents and people in real estate investing are very anxious. So if you can find some people, they all need talking. Because, I mean, there's restless nights. I had one last night.
Well, and what we could talk about is so one of my biggest passions is teaching. And so I've created some workshops, and I would love to even partner with you guys and create something even specifically for you guys.
That would be awesome.
That you work with. So think about that. Take notes of what are the things that people even need? You might even be like, I'm needing this. Great. I will create it. That's where my 7 comes in. And my love of teaching, and just really just solid examples that people go, I could do that.
Yeah. I really like that idea. I do.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, great. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
I mean, I will talk psychology all day, every day. So thank you for your time. We'll definitely get you back on. We'll talk about more like the implementing and the real estate field, obviously.
But I think now that you've said the base even of that brain stuff a little bit more, it's going to help you. Because what I do when people finally get to the last week with me is we start to talk about how to recognize where other people are in their brain, and then how to appropriately respond to them based off of that. But you can't really truly do that the best if you've never done it for yourself. because it just doesn't
Right.
make sense.
Right.
And we're
It's
also
true.
not humble if we've never done it ourselves.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
So Lindsey, how do people get a hold of you that are listening?
Yeah. So they can go to my website. It's called theresponsivewomen.com. I do specialize in women, 18 plus, but I do work with men as well. So I don't want people to be like, oh, she doesn't work with men. Really, my criteria of the people that I work with are people that are thirsty, they're hungry, they are like, I am so ready to do this hard work. I hold people very accountable in my sessions, and I say, you need to do this, otherwise it's not going to happen, and I'm not doing it for you.
Yeah.
But I will be there to support you and guide you, and I'm literally there at times to hold people's hand and say, this is what we're doing, but I'm not pulling them. I will hold them, with them, but I will not pull them. That dark hole that they're in, there's a ladder, they need to climb it. I will not climb it. But I will be like, put one arm up, now take the step. Like, I will guide them in that whole process, but I will not do it for them.
Yeah, and you can't. So that's the big part. Well, very good. We'll make sure to put your website on our show notes. And then obviously we'll get you on our Instagram, Facebook, and we'll get you the video so you can share it on yours as well. But otherwise, we'll get you on the schedule. Natasha has that. I don't know when her next availability is, but she'll email you after the show, and then we'll talk about all that stuff.
Cool.
Sound good?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank
you. Enjoy your Friday. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.